Okay, today we are starting with lesson number 5, which is support project team performance. Classically speaking, you have already done already done the project until the execution. This is where you are actually not only looking at the performance of your team, but also monitoring and controlling the whole project. And naturally, I do understand while you are monitoring and controlling, the execution of the project is still going on. So, monitoring and controlling and execution, they are almost in parallel. So, the people involved in execution are doing the actual work, and the people watching over you are monitoring and controlling. So, from the predictive point of view, this is monitoring and controlling. But because we are also talking about agile and hybrid, so from that point of view, this area is linked to your soft skills, especially your team performance, team and their measuring, assessing their performance. Moreover, it is also about keeping an eye on all the areas which have been executed. So we are having 5 topics in it. First of all, implement ongoing improvements, and that is what we have been talking about, the continuous improvement, the concept of Kaizen. We will revise it and we will go into a little more detail. Then we'll talk about supporting performance, that is your team performance. How are you going to help them improve? You see, if your team performance is improved, your you will be improving continuously. That is serving the purpose of ongoing improvement. Therefore, it is not just to check what they are doing, but to improve how they are doing it. Third topic will be evaluating the project progress, overall, how well the project is going. Again, it is going to contribute to your organization and project performance improvement. Then, how do we manage issues and impediments? And lastly, we'll talk about managing changes, right? Naturally, we have already talked about what is change management plan, how is it developed, and during the execution, when you are executing the project, meanwhile, you are, if there is any need for change, you are moving the change request, and ultimately that has to be approved in case of a predictive project. In case of an agile project, we don't have a change control mechanism, but change is built into the agile system by itself, right? So we don't need to move a change request. And that's how we have all developed an understanding. Now, because most of the topics given here, we already have talked about them in one way or the other. So it would be easy to understand and go on with this. So first of all, implement ongoing improvements. As I said, it is based on the philosophy of Kaizen, which means Kai means change and Zen means good. That means change is good. So if change is good, then that means it is going to bring some improvement. Every time you change something, you change for improvement, you are working for the betterment. So Kaizen is the basic philosophy. We'll talk about what other philosophies are there for continuous improvement. This is an ongoing effort to improve your product, service, or processes through small incremental improvements or large breakthroughs. Now, if we are talking about small incremental improvements, we are probably referring to agile. And large breakthroughs is mostly from the perspective of predictive projects. Anyways, change is not only happening in your project, change is happening at the organizational level as well, which we have also discussed earlier. So basically, I said that projects are an instrument of change, organizational change. If you want to bring your increase the value of your business, if you want to increase the uh, level of your business, you have to address the business strategy, which is developed at the organizational level for projects to adopt and use. So basically, when you are using that and you are bringing some change into the organization through your project, typically implemented by an organization's PMO, because PMO is not a structure which always exists in every organization. It may or may not exist. If it does exist, then automatically that will take on the responsibility of continuous improvement, because this is a hub of activity for all projects and programs and would provide a structured learning approach or a continuous improvement framework. And by the way, you might have heard about Six Sigma. Agile, is already built that has a built-in continuous improvement framework, and Six Sigma is a similar kind of a thing. Six Sigma nowadays is more popularly known as Lean Six Sigma. Anyways, we talk about all these things. First, a video about Kaizen. So I will show this video to you. So just a moment.
The lean approach to learning is very pragmatic. Lean teams are constantly doing small experiments and analyzing the results. If there's a measurable improvement, the small change is adopted and the team jumps into its next small experiment. This enables lean teams to make continuous small refinements to their processes, refinements that add up to noticeable improvements over time. The idea is to improve through a series of small changes, a strategy the lean community calls Kaizen, Japanese for improvement. It's usually represented like this. And while the idea is strong, most organizations need a step-by-step approach that will yield results. And that looks like this. Here's how it works. First, an organization identifies potential improvement, such as a new practice or strategy that they want to experiment with to see how well it works in their situation. Then they try it out. They implement the change. After a brief period, they'll assess whether the change has been effective. They'll measure it against clear outcomes. If the new way of working is effective, they adopt it. If it isn't, they abandon it, for now at least. But they're not done. At that point, they share what they've learned with others, other members of their team, and other teams throughout their organization. Then start the process over. It is continuous improvement after all.
Actually, this video just highlighted the need for continuous improvement and one approach, how it can be done in normal projects, especially in predictive environment, because change is inevitable. No matter how well you plan your project, but you will end up doing certain changes into your project. And when you bring those changes, naturally, they are for some kind of improvement. Naturally, you are not bringing changes to discredit your project or go down in performance. Basically, every change is bringing some improvement to the project output and to the organization as well. Okay. So the very first thing we need to do is, if you want to improve, you have to assess your current continuous improvement method. In your organization, you might be using some model by itself. I don't know what model are you using, but I'll just list down certain different models for you which could be used for continuous improvement. First of all, from your previous projects, you might have recorded certain lessons learned. And while you're doing your project, you are also recording all those things you are learning during the course of this project and recording them into a lessons learned register, which is ultimately going to be, when the project is completed, is going to be submitted to the organization into their lesson learned archives or repository. Now, we have to be sure that while you're doing your project, are you really recording all the lessons learned? Is the lesson learned register up to date? Is the team having regular retrospective? Now, where do the retrospectives happen? When do we do retrospectives? What methodology I'm talking about?
Agile.
Agile.
Agile, definitely. Because in Agile, we have to wholly depend upon retrospective for continuous improvement. We don't have a change control mechanism. We have a different methodology here. So naturally, you are right. It is specifically referring to retrospective. But if it was the predictive project, what word should I have used? If it was a predictive project, what do you call it? Anything similar to retrospective in predictive projects?
After action learning.
I just in the previous slide discussed that. Lesson learned register, right? And at the end of the project, we submit all the lessons learned during the project to the organization. So this lesson learned register will be deposited into the lesson learned repository of the organization. So anyways, that is how we use the continuous improvement in a predictive project. But in agile project, retrospectives provide a comprehensive mechanism of ongoing improvement in an agile project. Have you heard about Six Sigma or Lean Six Sigma?
No.
No. Okay. Do you remember I did talk about statistical method, which was kind of a bell curve,
Yes.
Okay. Yep.
3-point estimate? Remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. Let me draw it again for you as if I can explain it. You remember it was something like this on a baseline, and we had divided this into 3 parts on the positive side and 3 parts on the negative side, right? This was center, and we said that most of the people are of this opinion. That is, actually, these plus 3 is 3 sigma on the positive side and 3 sigma on the, the 3 deviations on the positive side and 3 deviations on the negative side. One deviation plus minus is called 1 sigma. 2 deviations plus and minus is called 2 sigma. And 3 deviations plus minus are called 3 sigma. So I hope you can relate to that. What we studied was in regard to 3 sigma. 3 sigma gives you an accuracy of 99.74%. 2 sigma is even more inaccurate. It gives you some, I'm not really sure about the exact percentage. It is 74 point something percentage. And this gives you 1 sigma, is just about 62 point something. So if you just rely on this portion, that is majority, but it covers around 62% of accuracy. That means you still have a chance of 38% error. But if you go to 2 sigma, it will give you 74 point something. That is 26% error is still possible. But apparently, 3 sigma looks like a very promising figure, 99.74%. That means around 0.26% of error, which generally speaking might look very appealing. Do you agree with me?
Yeah.
Okay. But Japanese, they actually were working in quality and they had a concept of total quality, right? And they were relying on zero syndrome, zero error syndrome. They mean that the accuracy should be 100%. Although that is not practically possible, but we could come as close as possible to the figure of 100%. But 99.74 is not very close to that. That is, in a 100 items, you are still having a chance of 0.26% error. So, but Japanese were very successful in their total quality philosophy, and they were producing better quality than anyone else in the world. Where the world over, people were following 3 sigma, and then Americans started thinking that there must be some sense to the Japanese philosophy and there must be a possibility of more accuracy. So they decided to explore further this statistical method. And what they did was they extended this line further on and this line further on. You see, these are called tails of the bell curve, right? And the interesting fact is it keeps decreasing, it keeps coming lower and lower, but it will never touch the base, right? That means we have covered this portion in 3 sigma, which has, apparently a big curve, but after that, it is smoothened out, almost smoothened out, although it is not a parallel line to the base. They said, okay, what if we explore it further to plus 4 sigma, plus 4 minus 4, which means 4 sigma, and then 5, and ultimately 6 sigma. I am not really having the data, what was the accuracy of 4 or 5 sigma, but it was better than 3 sigma, much better than 3 sigma. At 6 sigma, they calculated that it is so accurate that only 3.4 items I'm sorry. So 3.4 items in a million. It is 99.9999 something. So it is close, very close to 100. So ultimately, it was universally adopted 6 sigma method, which is more accurate than the conventional 3 sigma, and especially when you are working in production, manufacturing, and other things, you are producing millions of items per day. What if you were using 3 sigma? That means in a million, you would be producing 65,000 items faulty. With the accuracy of 3 sigma, it is bearable to accept 65,000 items faulty in a million, which is a big figure from the production and manufacturing point of view. Toyota and many other companies, they adopted this Six Sigma and they reduced this error to 3.4 items in a million. I don't want to go into the mechanics of it because Six Sigma is by itself a very comprehensive, concept and a complete certification in itself. But Six Sigma is a continuous improvement model, right? Later on, they do have certification in Six Sigma, and the highest level is Master Six Sigma. Well, about a couple of years ago, I mean more than a decade, I think, there was another concept of lean. Lean, like Lean. Lean is one concept, again in production and manufacturing, that says no waste. Right? I did mention lean because we also use lean and agile. So lean, when married up with Six Sigma, it became Lean Six Sigma. This is the current standard in this world nowadays. If today you are going for a Six Sigma certification, I would strongly recommend you go for Lean Six Sigma. It combines the concept of Six Sigma with lean concept of no waste. I hope that makes some sense.
Yep, makes sense.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. Just a moment. I think I closed my presentation. Let me bring it back. Can you see this? So I just introduced to you the concept of Lean Six Sigma, and there is a certification to it. And we also, Agile method by itself is a continuous improvement method. Then we have the concept of Kaizen, I just introduced to you. The concept of Lean, which is about no waste. Then various Agile methods like Crystal method, like extreme programming, and so many others. Because they are all agile, so they are continuous improvement methods. Then we have the maturity model, capability maturity model integration. It is called CMMI. This is another mechanism for continuous improvement, but this applies mostly at the organizational level. It should not apply to at the project level. But if your project is being run in an organization which is CMMI certified, then you have to follow the best practices provided by capability maturity model integration. Now, a little thing about the difference between a standard and a maturity model, which I probably mentioned earlier as well. Standard gives you good practices. It tells you what is wrong and what is right. These are never to be called as best practices. Best practice always is given by a maturity model. Like in quality circles, they have ISO certification or ISO standard. Those standards just provide you the good practices. Whereas there is a maturity model for quality, which is called capability maturity model integration. That is the mechanism which can assess your organization based on the level of maturity you have achieved. That means how much best practices you are really following. Anyways, so these are various methods by which we can improve our processes continuously. Then within our quality management plan in our project, I told you there is one thing which is called quality assurance. The other thing is called quality control. Quality control was about the deliverable or the product, right? And we inspected the product or we tested the product at the end of it when it is ready. Before the user acceptance can be done, quality control must be verified. As the processes are concerned, during the project, whatever we are doing, are the processes of good quality? So this is a continuous effort which the quality assurance person will have to keep checking the project processes as if they need any improvement. And if they do, then he would implement those improvements and enhance the process. That means a continuous improvement is going on in every project, right? Anyways, I probably have discussed quality assurance, the concept of quality assurance and control with you already. So probably this statement of mine will serve to link this concept with that concept. Are you comfortable with this idea?
Yep.
So I have shown you continuous improvement happening at every level, at the organizational level, at the project level, and even at the process or activity level. So risk registers in a predictive project is a tool which records all the lessons learned, which records all what continuous improvement we have gone through during the life of the project, and then they are submitted to the lessons learned archive or the repository of the organization. That means the lessons we have learned from this project, organization will benefit from those lessons learned, and future projects can also refer to that. That means we are leaving a knowledge base for others to follow. That is how this continuous improvement we have achieved during the project can be instrumental, that this continuous improvement can be used at the organizational level also. But if it was an agile project, then we don't need this process, but the retrospective will serve that purpose, because retrospective is a more refined form of a lesson learned register. Okay, talking about the retrospective, how do we conduct the retrospective and when do we conduct it? You remember, after every iteration, we have this retrospective meeting. That is the very last step of that iteration. Before that, we demonstrate our whatever we have produced to the customer. They approve or reject it. That means they give the user acceptance. So feedback of the customer and any learning coming from there is part of the iteration review meeting with the customer, where we get the user acceptances. After the user acceptances, we move on to another process that is called conduct retrospectives. This is amongst the team members of the Agile team only. They sit together and they create a information radiator like the one on the right-hand side. 2 columns. And in these columns, on the left-hand side, you write what went well in this project and what all we have done well. And on the right-hand column, you need to improve. That we have found out certain mistakes and we will never commit them again. So just jot them down, as many lessons as you can record. And this is a meeting amongst the team members, and they can discuss and they can keep populating this chart. A very simple mechanism. A very simple mechanism. Not a very comprehensive or confusing kind of a thing. Simple guideline is prepare topics for inspiration. On a board, make 2 columns. Ask attendees to add items to these lists on the right-hand side and the left-hand side. Allow each participant to identify the reason for improvement. Decide common items that need improvement and mark them. Narrow the list to improvement areas. Now, you may have a very long list, but naturally, we will kind of prioritize it. We will kind of look for those things which are more important for the improvement. So, list of improvement areas that will bring value in the next sprint are the iteration. Get team consensus on the plan improvement. So, in a way, I am trying to tell you that during the retrospective, we develop our plan for improvement for the next iteration. I mean, these lessons we have learned so far will be used in the immediately next iteration. And this goes on because after every iteration, we have a retrospective. So basically, we are going to be continuously improving iteration by iteration. As we move ahead in the life of the project, our level of perfection or accuracy will enhance and improve with every iteration. Now, this can't happen in a predictive project because in a predictive project, we have lesson learned exercise conducted at the end of the project only, or maybe at the end of a phase. But then it is of no use for the ongoing project or phase because they have ended. It can only be useful for future projects or future phases. But you see, in Agile, it is interesting to know that we have very small iterations. And whatever we learn from one iteration can immediately apply to the next iteration, which is very similar. So we are improving at a higher frequency in an Agile project as compared to a predictive project. Is that understandable?
Yes.
Okay, good. Whatever method you are using for continuous improvement, you have to even keep improving it over time. Naturally, through the lessons learned or retrospective, that is the best way of adopting a continuous improvement framework, whichever the framework you have chosen. But there are certain tools which can help us do it even better. For example, experiments. Whenever you reach a point where a thing could be done in more than one ways, then what should you do? If there is something in the project which can be done by 2 different methods, which method to use? How do you select that? That is called A/B testing. For example, you have got 2 options. So the best way of doing it is, rather than guessing on it, you do it with both the methods and then compare the results and get a feedback from the team or, if possible, from the customer that what do they think, which method worked well. By this, you learn between the two and you improve, because in future you would know which method to adopt. So this is through experimentation. Experiments provide a way to improve team efficiency and effectiveness. So we apply controls to do them one at a time, meaning all the experiments have to be done. If there are three choices, all three choices we have to do and then try to gain a consensus on which is the best one. Another method is Pareto chart, which we all also called 80-20 rule, which we mentioned earlier as well. Do you understand what is the 80-20 rule?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you explain that?
So for me, it's more on maximizing the benefit with with minimal effort.
A very simple explanation would be 80% of problems are caused by 20% of reasons.
Yeah.
And this statement which I just said in front of you could be interpreted in many ways, right? This 80-20 rule is universally applicable. But interestingly, if we can address only 20% of problems, and 20% of causes of the problem, 80% of problem will go away. That means I am not saying that remaining 20% of things are not to be addressed, but I am just saying that with a minimal effort, you can gain a big advantage. This could be used for prioritization purposes, sorting purposes, or for making decisions. So this directs efforts where they can make the biggest impact. We should hit the nail where it affects most, rather than wasting our time on tapping here and there. Takes a big problem and breaks it down into smaller pieces. And then out of those smaller pieces, which are most effective, are prioritized through Pareto chart or 80-20 rule, and then we can address them. Okay, update processes and standards. Continuous improvement means that whatever the process we have, we keep a critical eye on that, and we learn through doing and adopt those improvements into our process. Similarly, the standards we follow, they are also going through continuous improvement. Like PMBOK Guide 7th edition is in the 7th edition rather in 8th edition right now. So after every 4 years, even PMI revises its standard to keep updated with the current ongoing technology. Therefore, you should also look at it that all your processes are updated, all your standards are updated. Don't keep following the older version of the standard. The latest version of the standard should be used. Can lessons learned at the project level apply to organizations' continuous improvement process? What do you say about it? I just explained it. Yes, Arman?
Yes, we can.
They can be. Why? Because projects will definitely benefit future projects, but organization at large can also adopt those practices in their normal operation, and thus the organization can also benefit from these lessons learned. And if so, escalate these lessons as an opportunity for adoption at the organizational level. So once we send these lessons to the organization, then naturally they will adopt them and they will have this opportunity of learning and adopting and improving continuously. Okay, now a little bit about the improvement mindset. Like we did talk about the agile mindset, here we have the improvement mindset that you should always have this at the back of your mind that nothing you're doing is perfect. And we will learn better ways of doing things and we will adopt them. That is an improvement mindset. That means you are yourself never an expert, or for that matter, you are not the last word on anything. You need to educate yourself, keep pace with the cutting edge technology, as if you always can make the right decisions. Encourage a fail fast mindset. What is fail fast? Did I mention it before? What is
Um,
fail fast? What do you mean by that?
uh, it means to try immediately before waiting, and then earlier the better because you learn and then apply learnings faster.
Exactly. If you have to fail, then fail fast rather than being afraid of it and pending it till very late when we will be having very short time. And if we fail at that point in time, we won't have time to repeat and correct our mistake. So don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of things which are difficult. Address them head on. And if at all you fail, that you will learn something out of it. And if you learn something, you will try again and succeed. So this fail fast mindset is actually a continuation of the improvement mindset. Then it says identify material improvements, training processes, or equipment. You know, uh, I think you understand that these material improvement, like if you keep providing latest training to your staff, they will automatically, their knowledge will be enhanced, their skills will be enhanced, and they will be able to perform better. If you keep revising and updating your processes, that is continuous improvement. And similarly for the equipment. Then, after you have implemented a change, measure the effect of any change. How does it improve your normal way of working? If it does, then it is good. If it doesn't, then you probably did a useless thing. This change was not required because it is not improving anything. So change must improve something. So we have to be very careful and we have to keep our knowledge current about things. Don't take ad hoc decisions. And once you have gone through this cycle, then be prepared to do it again, and again. That is a fail fast mindset. Try again until you succeed. Question: what is the aim of retrospective? What do you say?
D, to identify what went well and what can be
Yeah.
improved.
Exactly. D is the correct answer. Which two of the following are objectives for running a retrospective?
B and C.
B and C? Bravo and Charlie?
Mhm.
Okay. Arman, what do you think?
For me, it's B and D. Hello? Can you
Yes,
hear me?
yes.
Yeah, I said B and D. Bravo Delta. BD.
Bravo, and the second option is?
D. Dog. Delta.
Yes, good. Uh, Mark, agree to 1 to 2 experiments to try to improve team performance is a method, right? It is a part of, it's a part of your retrospective, but it is not the purpose, an objective. Purpose is to get the feedback on the product or to generate insights. When we are doing retrospective, mostly we are generating insight. When we are doing the review meeting with the customer, we are getting feedback on the product. All of this is considered in retrospective. So B and okay, sorry, you were right. You were right. Agree on 1 or 2 experiments.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Get feedback is not part of the retrospective. Get feedback is a part of the review meeting, and that is with the customer, right?
Okay.
And experiments are part of retrospective. Okay, I am sorry, I was wrong, and Mark is right. Okay, the next topic is sport performance. That is a big and a very important topic, sport performance. Now, when we talk about performance, we are generally in habit of assessing the individuals. We try to assess each employee or each team member in the project, uh, which may be good for predictive projects. But for agile projects, because the teams are self-organizing and there are no individuals considered, the team have been empowered to make their own decisions. So it is always the team performance we are supporting, not the individual performance. Anyways, so what do we have here? Project team leadership objectives. Whomsoever is leading the project. I mean, if it is the team lead in agile or if it is project manager in predictive, it is their responsibility to communicate. As I said before, 90% of project manager's time is spent in communications. What he does the most is communicate, communicate, and then re-communicate. He keeps reminding the whole team about the purpose we are here for. What are the project objectives? What is the organization strategy? What is the vision and mission? And he makes sure that nobody forgets about it and they are always walking on the right path. Because if he doesn't keep them reminded about what we are supposed to be doing, then it is highly likely that the team will get astray. So, this is the actual job of the leader. As far as who will actually bring the change or who will actually be performing, that is the team's responsibility. If you delegate to the team, have these self-organizing teams with T-shaped skills, then trust me, they can prove to be the high-performing teams. The optimized team performance can only be found in this way. Second important thing is that the knowledge sharing should be fluid, meaning it should be smooth and continuous. It should not be having breaks. It should be like the water is flowing in a stream continuously and with a consistent manner. Exactly what knowledge you are sharing with your team should be, trickling down continuously. right, throughout the life of the project. So this should be so normal, so natural that people should not even observe it, but they will learn over time. So a continued healthy dynamic on the team, welcome new team members and realign the team. You remember we talked about the Tuckman model, forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. So whenever you form the team for the first time, it goes through all these stages: forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. But it says even if a single new member has been introduced to the team, the whole team will go through the forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning phase yet again. This just to accommodate this new member and realign this member to the team, we all will work hand in hand with that person in introductions in the forming, then storming, and then norming. Because if these three stages have been completed as a team, only then you can really start performing. So focus the team on delivering value, right? Do not look at the your behavior is not good, you are not good looking. These are not the matters which should bother the project. Actually, if the team is delivering the value you ask them for, you should not bother who is working and who's not working. That is the responsibility of the team to make all the people work. As far as you are concerned, as a team lead, you team is answerable to you. If they are producing good results, then it is okay. Do you agree with me or you want to discuss? Because most of the people don't agree with this.
No, I agree.
You agree? Good.
Yes.
Mark?
Sorry, I think I wasn't able to get it. Can you repeat?
Good. You see, why people don't agree? Because they are not working in a self-organizing teams. They are working in a haphazard fashion. The people are coming and joining, and even teams do not have very good relationship. So rather than making them a team and let them behave like a team, we start giving orders to individuals and start assessing their performances, which is not actually contributing much to the overall team performance. If we give the decision to manage the team to the team and we don't interfere with their internal working, just give them the objective, trust me, they will work 100 times better than you will. So that's how we can focus the team on delivering value. I think this kind of diagram I have shown you earlier as well. In any project, we have got problems from simple to complicated, and we have got authority from low to high. If a project problem is simple and team has the authority to make a decision on that, that is the most ideal way of doing it. But if the matter is beyond your call of duty, naturally the complexity will arise and also the authority will be escalated. So that way, we have to take the decision from the higher authority. And similarly, as the things start becoming more complicated, authority keeps moving up. So some responsible stakeholder will make the decision on that, but not the team. But there is a limit. If a problem is so complicated, there is no assigned stakeholder to take the responsibility for that, then that outside of this parabola, that is undoable. You should not do a project outside of this parabola. All the level of complications must be addressable by available authorities. Right? So this was the point in defining this, the tolerance and the threshold. The parabola is the threshold, and the area covered under it is the tolerance level against problem and authority. Does it make sense to you?
The parabola, the graph, it makes sense, but on how to plot it, I think,
How?
uh, I mean, on how to do it in an actual project management
Well,
space.
you remember I said the simple projects would be where the problem is simple and authority is with the project team. That would be done in predictive manner. So this area is predictive. As we increase in complication, then we go into the hybrid, and then we go into the range of the agile. The very complicated things, naturally within this parabola, within this tolerance,
Mhm.
more complicated things would be handled by agile method. This diagram is also a method to choose which methodology are you going to use. Are you going to use the predictive, hybrid, or agile? But here it just means that it the level of complication should be within the authority uh, which could be held responsible. If there is nobody to be held responsible, then this is outside the scope of a project. You get that?
Conceptually, yes.
Yes? Okay, next is project manager's role. Uh, in a centralized management system, project manager is like an autocrat. He is the decision maker. He needs not consult with anyone. We'll talk about the various models. I think we have already discussed the various models, didn't we? The autocratic and all those models. Anyways, we'll see to that. So, especially in the case study, the Shoppe Lifestyle Center, where the project manager was Ang Pen, this was a hybrid model in such a way that the first phase of the project is completely predictive and the second phase of the project is agile, right? But because it is a hybrid model and it is dominated by the predictive, so project manager is the authority to make decisions there. So it ensures alignment of due dates, project deliverables, life cycle, benefit realization, all that project manager is responsible. And in such situations, in predictive and hybrid projects, we do have a project management plan. In agile, we don't have that. It ensures creation and use of appropriate knowledge to and from the project. So again, this is the responsibility of the project manager, being the centralized role. Then project manager manages project performance. He's personally responsible for doing the project performances and bringing changes to the project activities. So project manager is responsible. In agile, project manager is just a servant leader. Team is responsible for the performance. Then in a centralized model, it makes integrated decisions about key changes that impact the project. Who is making those decisions? The project manager. In agile, team does make the decision, not the project lead. Measures and monitors progress, takes appropriate action. Monitoring and controlling, which I referred to you in a predictive project, is a very comprehensive process. But in agile, we don't have that. So how do we control? We simply control things through the retrospectives and through the self-organizing teams. Whereas in a predictive project, we need to do a deliberate measurements, monitoring, and then change request and all that thing. But that is simplified in Agile. Collects, analyzes, and communicates project information to relevant stakeholders. That is what we studied about stakeholder engagement and stakeholder communication requirements. And you remember, we developed a communication management plan based on that. So he collects, analyzes, and communicates project information to relevant stakeholders. Ensures completion of all project work and formally closes each phase. In predictive, we ensure that each phase is closed down before the next phase starts, and ultimately, when all the work of the project has been done, the project should be concluded. Manage phase transitions when necessary. When does the phase transition happen? When one phase finishes and then is the next phase. So the bottleneck between these two phases is called a phase gate. The authorizing body, the steering committee, will have to physically review the end of a phase before they can allow you to proceed to the next phase. Again, this is all about predictive. Okay, so here is a question, a fill in the blank. The roles you have is of the project manager, team, scrum master or coach, product owner. So you have to fill in these fill in the blanks. So let's start. This is a hybrid project, as we say, Suhail Lifestyle Center. The dash oversees project management plan integration. Who is this dash?
Project manager.
Very good.
Oh, but it's hybrid, right? It's a
But delegates control of detailed product planning and delivery too.
The is the team
team.
part? Yeah,
Whom?
Team.
team.
No. The product planning and delivery, the outline plan in Agile is created by the product owner.
Huh?
Outline plan. Detailed plan of each iteration, that is the responsibility of team.
Okay.
Okay, the dash focuses on building a cross-functional team, a collaborative decision-making environment, and ensuring the team can respond to changes. Who does that?
The agile coach.
Scrum master.
Yeah,
Very good.
scrum master.
But in this case, it is a hybrid project, so it is project manager. If it was a completely agile project, then it would have been, you're right, it should be the project team. But in this case, because the big boss is the project manager, so we have all the roles of predictive and agile here. We have a sponsor, we have a project manager, we have a product owner, we have a team lead or the scrum master, and we have the team. So in this specific case, project manager is doing the high level planning. Process role of Dash helps the team to understand the agile mindset and use Scrum process. Who does that?
Scrum master.
Scrum master.
Very nice. To develop the Shopee Lifestyle Center product, the Dash is the local domain expert.
That's how
Who
to
is the
develop
local domain expert?
Product owner.
Who?
Or the team.
the team.
I'm
Yeah,
confused on the team.
Team.
the team. Yeah.
So,
Then
local domain expert that plans how to do the work, and Dash looks after value creation. Who looks after value creation?
The product owner.
product owner.
Very nice. Very nice. Now, this was a tricky question because in hybrid, there are so many roles, people usually get confused, and you are right in getting confused about that only one option. The product owner manager Project manager focuses on building a cross-community. So only for a hybrid project. In Agile, it would have been the team. As we emphasized about the communication, so you have to optimize communication, use retrospective purposefully, discuss how to improve ways of working, communicate in both group and face-to-face setting, especially important for remote or virtual teams. If possible, if all the team members are available physically, then you must have a face-to-face. Otherwise, you have to involve all the virtual team members also, right? So they cannot be available face-to-face. So maybe we use video conferencing or some other tool. Make communication positive and regular with internal and external team members and stakeholders. You have to engage everyone, whether they are team members, customer, stakeholder, whomsoever. Everybody is a stakeholder. Some are internal, some are external. So basically, you have to make communication positive and regular with every stakeholder. Use technology and tools. Get feedback about them and tailor for optimization. You see, technologies and tools, they keep changing. Maybe you used a different technology in a previous project, but a similar project you're doing now, you will have the latest technology being used. So, choosing the right technology and tools is important because that serves to tailor your project to the latest trends and thus causing optimization. Okay. Use feedback to support high performance. Feedback is crucial for any team, naturally. Uh, Using any method in any environment, actually, feedback is really very important. If you don't get any feedback. For example, if I am talking to you, I'm teaching you, and you don't respond to me, that means I don't get a feedback. So I won't know how well you understand the concept. And therefore, I might be repeating myself time and again, trying to explain something which you already have understood. So feedback is important. And even when you're working in a team, there must be feedback that is crucial for any team using any method in any environment. There must be some mechanism of feedback. Like I said, in a review meeting, in an agile review meeting, we are receiving feedback from the customer about the product. In the retrospective, we are collecting feedback from all the team members on what we did well and what we did wrong. Both are serving to improve our way of working. Communicate in detail about technical and soft performance aspects. These are important things. You have to really make sure that the power skills and the uh, technical side of the things are being communicated to them effectively and in detail, as if they don't have any doubts. And as I said, communicate, communicate, and communicate, and then re-communicate. Use appropriate methods. Maybe you decide how are you going to communicate. Is it going to be a public communication or a private communication? Is it one-on-one to an individual or maybe to a group? Is it going to be written or in verbal? So whatever methodology you want to use, choose it to your convenience. Now, one thing I talked about, feedback is crucial, but feedback should be provided if you are trying to provide a feedback to a person or a team. It should be timely. If you want to, they did a good job, you must appreciate them promptly. If they are committing a mistake, you must correct them in a timely manner. If you hold back your feedback and maybe they have done a mistake today and you tell them after 3 months that I remember you did this mistake as a team. So that feedback is of absolutely no use because it is not serving to continuously improve, right? It is a very bad practice. That feedback should be provided in a timely manner when it really matters. Request feedback regularly as and when needed. Now, one thing I must tell you, which I learned uh, from my teacher, and that was feedback is never bad. Feedback is always good. How do you comment on that? Why is feedback never bad? Why is it always good?
Because positive feedback aims to uh, motivate, I mean, to recognize a good habit or a good performance,
Hmm,
while an opportunity, or more, they call it a negative feedback, aims to reinforce or to improve something, the performance of the person receiving that. So the intent is always good.
right. Actually, uh, feedback can be negative or it can be positive, but it is always good. Why? Because good feedback is anyways good to you. But when somebody provides you a negative feedback, we really get disturbed. You don't need to get disturbed. That is actually going to serve to improve you. Actually, the improvement path is normally hidden into the negative feedback, and that is even better. That is even better. This is more positive because this is going to get you going on the path to continuous improvement. And rather than, you know, uh, waiting for the feedback, you should continuously request feedback, right? It is just like, I am talking to you and I want a confirmation if you are really attentive and you are listening to what I am saying. So I keep asking you little questions which are seeking feedback from you.
Mhm.
And
Question.
naturally, this is benefiting all of us. Sport team task accountability. In a predictive project, we have a very complicated Gantt chart or a schedule, and the whole project is planned into it. And if you want to find out where are my commitments, you have to find it on on the schedule, on the Gantt chart. That okay, this is the activity next I'm going to be doing, and what is my role in it? Who else is going to be working with me? So that if everybody knows what they are supposed to be doing, is they are accountable for the task. So basically I have to provide a mechanism to them as if they can hold, I can hold them accountable for what they are doing. But in a predictive project it could be a very complicated diagram, whereas in agile we we do not have that. We don't have Gantt charts, we don't have schedules. In Agile, we have task boards. And task board is a visual diagram on which we can clearly see who is doing what has been done, what is being done, and what is still waiting to be done. That's all the information I need to know. So, in Agile, these task boards, and sometimes we call them Kanban boards, are extremely useful for making the team task accountability visible. We have already talked about the responsibility assignment metrics and RASI chart, responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. So I'll just skip that. Curate knowledge as an asset. While you learn new things, during the course of the project, you will have to document all the knowledge. And as you understand, there are two types of knowledge: explicit knowledge and tacit knowledge. Explicit knowledge is which could be shared, written down, communicated, but tacit knowledge is it probably we can't put a finger on it that what we are learning and how we are learning it. Just by being in a company of a highly professional person, my habits starts improving. That is a tacit knowledge. If someone asks you, what have you learned in the company of this experienced person, probably I can't really put a finger on it. I can't really say, I can't list down what all I have learned, but I feel improved and enriched. That is called tacit knowledge. So both of these knowledges must be somehow recorded into the organizational archives. No matter whether it is explicit knowledge or tacit knowledge, always treat knowledge as an asset and safeguard it, not only for your team, but for future use for the whole organization. Incorporate knowledge transfer opportunities. Now, how can we transfer our knowledge? Now, when you are naturally you are doing some project, you're learning new things, you itch to share that information, the knowledge you have attained or gained, you want to discuss it with your colleagues or your friends within the team or outside of the team. You must be provided some opportunities to do that. That is to incorporate knowledge transfer opportunities, that if I know it, why should I not tell it to my friend or to someone else? Maybe that person is not from my organization, but that knowledge I need to share. So for that, we have got various mechanisms. One is the networking opportunities that they can happen within the organization, within the team, or outside of the organization, like PMI has got various interest groups, or what they call them, communities of practice. They specialize in one area. For example, there is a community of practice for women in project management. So that community of practice just focuses on the role of women in project management, and many discussions go on there, and new knowledge is curated. Maybe there is a community of practice or an interest group for Agile. There, all the people are talking about new methods and techniques in Agile. So we learn a lot from this interaction. I will share my experiences, others will share their experiences, and ultimately I get more knowledge than what I am giving. Then another way of doing that is through meetings, seminars, or other in-person and virtual events, like we are doing here. We actually are learning. It is not only you who is learning, but I am also learning from you. Right? So basically, this is whenever we are sitting in this kind of a setup in a meeting session or whatever, even a training, that serves as a means of incorporating knowledge transfer opportunities. Our mentoring, what we talked about, work and job shadowing. Work shadowing or job shadowing. That is, I have been paired with a more experienced person on a job, and that person knows everything. I don't know nothing. So what I do is I learn by following him, by copying him. Whatever he is doing, I am trying to shadow it. I am trying to reproduce what he is doing. That is called work or job shadowing. There is also another concept which is called reverse shadowing. What do you mean by that? What if I say reverse shadowing? What is it?
It's the other way around. So for example, here, I would be teaching you, and then you would be checking my knowledge. So
Mm-hmm.
reverse shadow. So if I'm shadowing you, I'm learning from you. Reverse shadowing is I'm doing it, and then you are checking or you are validating my work.
Uh, Not really. Not really.
Reverse shadowing is when a more experienced or expert
Mm-hmm.
shadows a less experienced person.
Okay.
So that's why it's reverse.
Actually, reverse shadowing is the same as the job shadowing, but in a reverse direction. I observe my mentor to be going from A to Z. I observe the whole process very carefully, how he goes to A from B, B from C, and ultimately he ends up at Z. If I can reproduce the whole process in reverse order, like from Z to Y to X to ultimately B, if I can reconstruct the whole thing in a reverse order, that means I have learned it. Like a child, you teach him the alphabets of English language, right? A, B, C, D. Anybody can recite it from A to Z. The day this child can recite it backwards, that means the perfection. He now understands all the alphabets in the right order. This is reverse shadowing. Do you understand that?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. There are three levels for knowledge management. One is the individual level, project level, and the organizational level. Individual level is what do team members need to know to perform project work. So every member of the team needs to have certain knowledge or information for the job he or she is doing. That is the knowledge at individual level. Project level. What is required to achieve the project goals? So basically, at the project level, PMO can be consulted and they can help us out how the knowledge could be transferred from one project to the other. Individual was one individual to the other. Now it is from one project to the other. So, what the lessons learned we are depositing in PMO for future reference, the projects in future would be consulting that and they would learn out of it. That is project to project learning. Then is the organizational learning. How the lessons we have learned in the project could benefit the organization. That would be if those lessons which are lying in the lessons learned repository and they are being used by the other projects, but are these lessons of any use to the organization? If we can make them useful to the organization, that is organizational management, knowledge management. Within the organization, we can take advantage of the experience of project teams, and ultimately, we can induct some of the practices for the betterment of our organization.
Question. Can you go back to the slide? Next there. So, is it required, or I would say recommended, to have an individual knowledge level before having an organization wide knowledge level?
Actually, knowledge base is already held by the PMO. right? Now, other projects can benefit from it, and the organization can also consult this archive in PMO and can benefit from it. But naturally, all the lessons we learned uh, during the project management may not be applicable to the organization, but some of the lessons will be. For example, some process improvement at the organizational level, some of the lessons lying in the PMO may be useful for them. Did I answer that?
I'm just thinking if I were a project manager, and because I'm trying to relate it to more of a big picture thinking as a project manager, right? So, for example, even if you're a project manager, it is important for sure. Level the second one, it's important for the project manager to have, right? But if I'm trying to scale it up a little bit, so
Mhm.
I need to know what's happening in the entire program, for example, in my scope, or even the portfolios or the portfolio that the organization has, right? But I think some project managers are do not have the first one, individual.
Okay,
What do team members need to know to perform project work, right? So I
okay,
think it's a bit specific
mhm,
if I try to compare it in a specific project. So that's
right.
why I asked, is it a prerequisite to have the first one before going up or before having the knowledge for the other levels?
Okay, you see, this knowledge is not about program or portfolio. This is knowledge which was generated from the project. And if this project is under a program, the program is running many projects. There are, say, 10 projects in that program, and all these projects are contributing the lessons from various projects, but program can review them, and some of the lessons might be of use to be used at the program level, and similarly it can escalate up to the portfolio level. If you understand the concept of escalation, you understand that there are matters which are resolved within the project, and there are matters which cannot be resolved within the project, and they are to be escalated to the next higher level, right? So next higher level, it becomes a program issue then. If it is a program manager sitting up there, it becomes a program manager. Program manager resolves it and records it into his lessons learned. If the matter is not resolvable by the program manager, it will be escalated to the portfolio level. And this way, the things are moving upwards, even up to the level of the organization. Does it make sense now?
Mm, in your context, yes, at least in the relationship of the projects up to the portfolio.
Mhm. uh, Up to the portfolio, and portfolio is contributing to the organization naturally.
Yeah. I mean, linking it to the organization. Yeah, I understand that.
Good. Okay, I think we have been talking for quite some time. Let's have a little break, say 15 or 20 minutes.
Okay.
20
Yeah.
Yeah.
minutes okay with you?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Okay, let's start the break, and then I'll be back with you. Welcome back.
Hello.
Yeah, Mark.
Hello.
Hello, Arman. How are you?
Good, good.
Okay, we have to go a little faster. Uh, this next slide is about motivation. I understand all these topics, which are like, the soft skills or power skills, they are quite simple. So, when you are motivating your team, what is the right way of doing it? So, these are some do's and don'ts. First of all, do's. As a leader, you must inspire and motivate yourself first and then the team. A leader who is himself not motivated, how can he or she motivate the team? It is not possible. And when you are motivating them, provide them opportunities, not obligations. Don't make it mandatory for them to do. It is not orders you are trying to give them. It is the opportunities you are likely to show them as if they follow you, as if they are interested in doing what they should be doing. Give virtual teams constant and regular contact because they are not present physically in front of you. So you have to overemphasize the message and you have to give them extra importance. The people available face to face, they can ask for clarification and you can anytime brief them whatever they have a misconception about. But virtual teams, probably you have to make sure that they understand they're at the level of the face to face team. Provide appropriate training opportunities. So whomsoever requires to be trained in something, they should be provided the opportunity automatically. Not that they ask for it, but you should be vigilant enough as a leader, as a team lead, that you know who needs what. Try self-assessment and reflective moments for professional growth. Well, we can facilitate the self-assessment. Like, we can provide them a mechanism for self-assessment, maybe on some website or something, on an interactive hyperlink, they can do their self-assessment. But give them some reflective moments also, as if they can look back and see what they did right and what did they do wrong. These are the right ways of doing the motivation. What is the wrong way of doing it? Overwhelming with meetings and work interruptions. If you don't let them work, you keep bothering the team with other activities like, suddenly you are calling a meeting and people have to leave their job, their work uh, right in the middle, or you give some other kind of work interruption like, first do this job and then you do that job. Let them continue what they are doing. Do not distract these people with non-project work. The people on project team are supposed to be doing only the project work. Sometimes we assign administrative works not relevant to the project to some team members. That is wastage of the project time. You cannot force group activities because group activities is something which is done willingly and voluntarily. You can't just tell them that tomorrow morning at this much time, everybody should be here because we are going for a walk. Well, it is a voluntary activity. Let them join if they want. If they don't want, you don't have to force them. Okay, continuously realign team efforts with value delivery. This I had already mentioned to you that when a new team member is added to the team, you have to go through the forming, storming, and norming stages yet again with the whole team because everybody has to get to know with a new person and they all have to align with that. So, uh, continuously realign team efforts as somebody leaves or somebody joins the team. And they should be focused on value delivery. Prioritize team cohesion and focus on value delivery. First of all, uh, team cohesion is your first priority. Team cohesion is your first priority. Team should be one. And how can you make it cohesive team, a collaborative team? That is through this process. And then keep, as I said, communicate, and re-communicate. So keep their focus on value delivery. Keep reminding them what we are aiming for. As team members or external parties join or depart, or during change or disruption, support the team as it realigns itself. How does it realign? Like forming, storming, and norming. Welcome each new member as a potential source of new knowledge and motivation. Ensure shared understanding of project goals and agreements. That is very important. We studied it in the I think second lesson. We have to create a shared vision, shared understanding amongst all the team members to reduce conflicts. Collaborate to find out how they can add value, right? Each team member, I should talk to them and see how this person can contribute to the cause. Navigate disruptions and conflicts constructively. We'll talk about conflicts in more detail. Artifact maintenance, you see, the lessons learned archive, whatever the repository, so those things are to be maintained somehow. How do you maintain the artifacts? As we understand that in project management, we do have a configuration management system which controls the versions of all the documentation created during the project and keep a proper record of everything. Changes, documents, products, everything is properly recorded with dates and times. What change was brought into this thing at what point in time. And that could help us reconstruct the whole past of that document. And anyone who knows nothing about that document, if they can read out the whole documentation from version 1 to the latest version, they would actually be having the complete picture. So artifact management is a very important thing. Make it part of your regular quality check. Keep file storage organized and versioned. Ensure compliance with the data protection and security mandates, and maintain artifacts in preparation for archiving during the project closure. Because once the project is closed, all of these archives are going to be handed over to the PMO or to the organization. Question. While you are working on a SWOT analysis for a risk response, a team member asks you to show them how it is done. Which type of coaching is this? I know some questions are repeated. I don't know if this question we have seen before.
I mean, letter A.
A, right. A team member asked you if they could lead an estimating meeting, which skill will you be coaching the team member?
A.
Which one?
A. I mean, as a follower or
B is the right answer. Facilitating a meeting.
okay.
You understand why? Because team member asked you if they could lead an estimating meeting. Focus is on meeting. No matter what the purpose is, he wants to know how to conduct a meeting. So tell him facilitating a meeting. A product owner is unsure about how to participate in an iteration review session. What should the project manager do?
Letter D.
D.
Which one?
Delta.
D?
Delta.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Actually, because the product owner is senior to the project manager, to the team lead or project manager. So product owner, you can't just remove him or request him to keep quiet or refer him to someone. You have to physically coach the product owner on how to contribute in the meeting. A company was hiring for certain positions. For one position, they were asking for people and skills such as leadership, team building, motivation, conflict management, influencing, negotiating, and several others. This position would require the individual to lead efforts to satisfy specific objectives and complete them in a timely manner within budget constraints. What job position are they trying to fill, and what type of skills were they looking for?
B.
E, you said?
Yeah. Project manager management skills.
Actually, yes, you are right about the project manager, but these are not just the management skills. These are the leadership skills or interpersonal skills for that matter. C is the correct answer.
Okay.
How can this geographically dispersed virtual team be engaged and motivated to innovate, be productive, and stay within schedule? In which two ways they do this? It's a it's a virtual team, geographically dispersed team.
Um, B and D.
B and B and D. No, A and D.
Uh,
Okay.
With virtual teams, you can hold online daily stand-ups. It is possible.
okay.
And you don't have to relocate specialists to OS town temporarily. That is not the solution.
But that can help, right?
Yeah. How can the team ensure that their processes are optimal and they can deliver the final prototype on time?
C.
Uh, B. For me, B.
He is the correct answer. The SMEs want to pilot a camera drone to send real-time close-up of a building to the rest of the team to troubleshoot. Only 1 month remains in the timeline. How should the team respond first? Noted, how should the team respond first? That is answer. So these are the options.
Letter D.
D,
C.
C. Yeah, C is the correct answer. D is not correct because an SME is a stakeholder. Stakeholders do have a right to move change requests whenever they want, right? You can't ask them questions, why are you saying this and why you are not. you are supposed to forward that change request to the change control board. They will decide the fate of that change request. Okay, we are done with this portion, and then we are entering into the monitoring and control part of it, that is, evaluate the project progress, the actual progress, the physical progress of the project, especially in case of predictive projects. So we have to look at all the major aspects of the project. We have to remember scope, time, and cost were our three major objectives. So you have to keep an eye on them. Then, as far as estimation is concerned, we have schedule, but cost and resources. These three things have to be estimated. Again, we have to already looking after schedule and budget. Resources are equally important because these are one of the three estimates. Quality has its own importance because we don't want to be lacking in quality assurance or quality control. So we want to not have any defects. We want to have our processes optimized. So quality and risk, because this involves uncertainty. Otherwise, I do understand and agree all the 10 knowledge areas are all equally important. But as far as the monitoring and control is concerned, it is like a priority here. Like we start from scope, time and cost, resources, quality and risk, and other areas. Why have we not mentioned procurement, stakeholder engagement, and communication management and things like that? Because uh, those any change to stakeholder engagement or the communication plan or the procurement or the contract will ultimately impact the scope, time and cost. The three baselines, actually change is a change when it affects the scope, time and cost. That's it. So basically those things are automatically going to impact scope, time and cost. So if you can focus on these areas, especially the first three. These are the three baselines, right? So you can actually take control of that. As far as scope is concerned, naturally, you know how much is the scope of the project. So how much of that work has been completed, that is the scope progress. And if there are any change requests, which is maybe impacting the scope. Schedule. We have in our schedule, in our Gantt chart, we have a plan when any activity should start and when it should end. I know the exact dates, but the question is, when the project is executed, are the things happening exactly according to the plan, or there are some divergence? Sometimes some activity gets late, even sometimes an activity starts late. So the actual date of start and finish may differ from the schedule. So what impact does it cause on the overall project? Similarly, budget is what we planned. That is how we expected the things turn out and how are we going to release the funds. But actual on ground expenses, we don't know. We will know when they will happen. So that is the actual cost. So I have to compare my actual cost with what should have been spent so far. Therefore, this is my third most important area. Scope, time, and cost. These are the three project objectives. Because estimation is involved, schedule is estimated, budget is estimated, so resources are also estimated. Although resources will not directly impact the change, but resources will impact the budget or the schedule. Quality. Again, quality is important, but it is not the project objective. So anything lacking in quality of the product or the process will impact your schedule and budget and scope. Similarly, risk does the same thing. But anyways, if we can keep an eye on these areas, probably we can save ourselves from the trouble. Report on performance. You can develop a report which should show what were the milestones scheduled, when what things were supposed to be done. Quality reports, if there are any charts and reports based on the quality matrix. Earned value management, as we studied, earned value management is really very important because this is one method which basically addresses the schedule variance and cost variance, and we can even extract the scope progress from earned value data. Variance analysis is naturally we used it in earned value for schedule variance and cost variance, but variance could be for anything, right? Like, even resources. How much resources were required to be employed and how many resources are actually being employed? What is the variance? So, yes, we can, but although in earned value management, we do have the schedule variance and the cost variance. Work performance report, I'll talk about it. This is basically the finalized report of all the work performance. Dashboards are visual depictions of various reports in chart form or in form of a dashboard on your mobile or your computer screen. And interestingly, actually the data behind is the same. The project data is behind the dashboard. But we extract certain data of importance to be displayed on the screen. Now, this is not a one common screen which can be shared with anyone. All the stakeholders may have different needs and requirements. Therefore, I will create an electronic login procedure. If a sponsor logs in, he looks at a different dashboard, and if a team member logs in, he looks at a different dashboard. Why? Because the topics of interest are extracted for the executive, and he could look at that dashboard. He may not be interested in details. As far as team members are concerned, they may be interested only in the work they are supposed to be doing. So they will be shown on their dashboard only their task and their progress. So basically, the dashboard is physical and electronic progress summaries, usually with visual or graphics, to represent the large data set. So behind the dashboard is a database that holds all the data, but a computer will automatically, extract data which is required for a certain stakeholder. And when that stakeholder logs in, he gets that shape displayed in front of him. Right. So these are various reports on performance. And this could be used for hybrid, it could be used for age predictive. As far as scope is concerned, let us look at it. In a predictive project, we develop a scope baseline. Remember, during the planning, we developed a scope baseline based on what? Based on the scope statement, based on the work breakdown structure and work breakdown structure dictionary. These three things put together is my scope baseline. And the method is to measure completion of project scope against the scope baseline, right? How much scope has been accomplished and how much scope was supposed to be accomplished. So we can even find a scope variance by doing that, right? But that is just, for example, you had to complete 10 units and you have completed 5 units so far. And according to the plan, you should have achieved 6 units by now. So you are behind by 1 unit. So this is simple percentage that tells you how far behind you are. In Agile, we don't have a scope baseline. We have a scope which is constantly evolving over time. Although we have an initial product roadmap, we had a little bit of understanding of how the things will go. We developed a risk releases in it, and every release has its own backlog. extracted from the product backlog, and every iteration has its own backlog, from which they are pulling data, the user stories from the product backlog or the release backlog, and they are keeping it in the iteration backlog for doing it. So backlogs including product features and functions and user stories naturally reflect identified, updated, and pre-prioritized product needs, meaning at all times, our backlog will represent the latest requirements of the customer, latest undone requirements of the customer in shape of user stories. So check user stories and definition of done against customer feedback and product requirements. This is the difference between monitoring the scope in predictive and agile. Now, what is scope validation? Now, as far as scope validation is concerned, actually there are two processes in monitoring and control. One is called scope control, other is called scope validation. As far as validation is concerned, it has something to do with the deliverable or the product, not the process. Just like I said, in quality, we have a separate process to look after the quality of the process and separate process to look after the quality of the product. They were quality assurance and quality control. Very similar to that, in scope, we have two processes. Scope validation validates the scope of the product, and scope control validates the scope of the project and the processes. So scope validation is the final acceptance criteria, which when achieved, the project would be declared complete. But in Agile, we have the definition of ready, we have the definition of done, we have already talked about it. And rather than having an acceptance criteria for the whole product, we have acceptance criteria for every user story, which we would be reviewing in the iteration review, presenting it, demonstrating it to the customer, and seeking their approval. For each user story, not for the whole product. And therefore, because acceptance criteria, as far as the user stories are concerned, is only relevant to the work. As far as the physical delivery of the things are concerned, that may be coming later. So that is when the definition of done is achieved. And naturally, we have already talked about the definition of ready. That is when we are all set to go. We are ready to start the work. So these are two questions here. In a predictive development approach, which artifact helps determine the acceptance criteria? Yes, please.
Letter B.
Which one?
Beta B.
Stakeholder engagement plan has nothing to do with
No, letter B. Letter B,
acceptance
not B.
criteria. Which one?
Boy. Not B, not B. Boy.
Bravo. Scope
Yeah, bravo.
statement
Yeah.
just describes the product scope and the project scope. It doesn't uh, track the acceptance criteria. What are we left with?
A.
A. Okay.
But it says scope
Oh,
statement.
scope statement is right. As determine the acceptance. Oh, yes, sorry. I thought it is talking about traceability. It is talking about the product scope and project scope. So scope statement includes the product scope and the project scope. So B is the correct answer. In an adaptive development approach, what helps determine that the acceptance criteria for user stories has been met? This is simple.
Definition of done.
Very nice.
DOD.
Okay, now coming over to schedule. Naturally, we have Gantt charts, which we call schedule. So schedule performance can be tracked over the Gantt chart. Although I just explained to you that the agile method has got a very simple and elementary method of a task board, which is even easier than this. But because in predictive projects, we plan the whole project upfront, therefore, we can create a schedule which is quite a bit detailed. Now, based on that, we can do earned value management. We can even take into account the quality matrix, and we can do variance analysis. So earned value is beautiful because it is not only dealing with the schedule and cost principally, but uh, based on this data, we can also estimate the scope variance. How much are we aligned with the scope? We can also look at the quality metric. So in a way, earned value is a kind of all-encompassing tool for doing uh, the schedule performance measurement from predictive point of view. So we compare work delivered and accepted to estimations for current. Okay, this is talking about agile now. Now it is talking about agile. Compare work delivered and accepted to estimation for the current iteration and sprint. Because we don't have the whole plan, we plan one iteration at a time. So at the end of every iteration, we see what all has been accepted. User acceptance for user stories which have passed. Which have not passed, they are submitted back to the product backlog to be redone again. Review completed work in regular sprint demos. Sprint demo is when we demonstrate the user stories in front of the customer as if they can accept or reject it. So that is the review process. Determine production, validation, and acceptance rate for deliverables in retrospective. In retrospective, we'll think over it, what went right and what went wrong. We determine how much was the production, how well we do in the validation part of it, and what is our acceptance rate, right? Conduct scheduled reviews to record retrospective discoveries. So these scheduled reviews result in naturally coming feedback from the customer, and we record that into our retrospective as well. Schedule management tools, they help us to adjust schedule to reflect resource supply and demand. If you remember, when we were studying the planning, we did discuss the resource optimization by smoothing or leveling and schedule compression by fast tracking and crashing. Just refer back to that, and I'm just making a reference here. We have already studied all these concepts. Is that fine?
Yes.
Then visualize the performance. Now, how can you visualize it? Actually, I like Agile from that perspective because the visualization is very interesting and very easy in Agile because we have visually displayable charts rather than writing separate reports for every stakeholder and sending them. So we avoid doing a lot of paperwork and we rely more on visual and physical uh, mechanisms to keep people informed. Like you see, on the walls of the room in which the Agile project is going on, all of these charts are pasted, and anyone can walk in and see. Anyone can walk in and see what actually is going on right now, till now. The complete progress is depicted in a glance. There is no problem to understand that. That is how the visual display of graphics and all can be very useful. This could be useful in dashboards also, but in Agile, This is the way of doing it. Then in product backlog progress, we have the concept of burn down and burn up, which I'll discuss in a while. Burn down means what? Like there is a candle, it is of specific height. You burn it, and over the night, that candle keeps burning out. It keeps going down, right? So this is a unique mechanism in Agile only, that rather than creating a cumulative graph of like S-curve, which rises from the bottom towards the top, here we have in reverse order. We say how much is the total work of this iteration. For example, that is 200 story points. So I will draw a line up till 200, and then every day I'll check how much is yet to be done, right? So I started with 200. On next day, I might be at 190, and next day I might be at 180. So this burn down chart represents the remaining work at any point in time. Until the last day of the iteration, all the work should have been done. That is called burn down. And burn up chart is basically a graph moving upwards, but it is not graph about an iteration, but it is a summary graph of all the iterations. What we did in iteration 1, what we did in iteration 2, so that keeps adding up, and ultimately we can infer a lot many results from it, meaning it will actually give us the way that we are performing. Our performance in Agile project over the iterations could be observed through a burn-up chart. Again, I'll show you. Display project data in progress on graphic information radiator. Now, burn down, burn up are graphic radiators, graphic representations of information radiator. A task board is also information radiator, and a lot many other things. There is yet another thing which is called cumulative flow diagram. This is another interesting, but a little complicated, but a very interesting diagram which keeps you on your toes about the iteration. Kanban and task boards are used here. Continuous flow approach include throughput, cycle time, and lead time. I'll show you how in cumulative flow diagram these terminologies are clearly described. And then we have time boxed approaches include velocity. Like, how much did we achieve in one iteration, and then in the next iteration, and then in the next iteration. I can take an average over a couple of iterations, that is called the team velocity. That is the average speed with which the team works in an iteration. Average speed. And that comes out to be our velocity. It's called team velocity. Now, a little video about information radiators, and then I will talk about each of these charts. Please view this
90% of all the information transmitted to the brain is visual. Not surprisingly, visuals are processed 60,000 times faster than text. We are wired to automatically interpret patterns for instant comprehension with almost zero effort. Want to see some examples? What do you see right away? A different shape. And with this one, a different size. And with this one, a different color. That brings us to an information radiator. An information radiator is a type of visual control that displays project information in a place where passersby can see it and get information without having to ask questions. The far left column of this example starts with the project charter. This lists the project's primary objectives, key features, and cautions and risks. It also lists those who have key roles in the project's completion: the product owner, the architecture owners, and the team lead. Finally, It provides a glossary of project terms which may not be widely known. The next column of this example indicates any impediments and blockers that are slowing or preventing progress on the project. This includes both known and outstanding blockers, and those that have been mitigated or completed. The bottom of this column provides a convenient place for the color coding to reside. In this case, green for done, blue for started, red for blockers, and yellow for dependencies. The large center section of this example shows the product backlog. It also shows the iteration backlog, the specific tasks being worked on by members of the team in the current iteration. The far right section of this example shows the iteration burn down, the rate at which the team is burning through its customer stories. This can tell the team whether they are on track, ahead, or behind the committed work. It also shows the release burn up. This monitors progress of release commitment iteration by iteration and gives the team a projection of when they will meet their release goal. And finally, it shows working agreements. These agreements detail how the team will work together and what they can expect of each other.
Okay, with this little video, now I am showing you the burn down chart. For example, this is one iteration of 2 weeks. It starts from 1st June to 20th June. This is the time of the iteration, total 20 days. And here what is happening is, this iteration, the team has picked up 190 story points to do. The very first thing you need to do is, you draw a straight line from this point till the 0 point, which is on the last day of the iteration. This is our desired flow. We should have done this much work. I think it is now visible. Okay. So we should have done this much work on the first day, this much work on the second day, and this much work on the third day, and this much work on the fourth day, and so on until we finish, right? So we had the total number of story points, we had the candle size as the total number of story points, and a straight line getting us to 0, when the whole candle should be burnt out. Now, we start drawing actual progress by this red line, these red dots. So you see what happens is that on the first day, where we were supposed to be at the 180 point, we actually went down to something like 168. That means we have done this much work during this time, whereas we were supposed to do only this much. So what we did, is it good or bad?
Good.
Yes?
Good.
Good.
It is good because we did more. Okay. So as the red dot is under the purple dot, it is good. If red dot goes above the purple dot, that is bad. But generally, we see this is the path it is taking, and ultimately it reaches the 0 point. That means we have done all what we committed. But I would like to show you certain trends in this, which is disturbing. That is, if I can draw a straight line from this point onwards, that means on the first day, after first day, when we started, the prediction is we can complete everything. If we keep moving at that speed, we can finish everything on 10th of June. So we said, okay, we are far ahead. So we relaxed a bit. And due to that, this point, if I draw a straight line, that means that we won't be able to complete if we keep moving on this pace, and we will meet our target on 5th of June, but after that, we are going to get delayed. Our line will go above the purple line. That is a prediction. Okay, on third day, if I draw a straight line, it goes something that we have improved our process, and now we can finish it on between 11 and 12th June. Okay, fine. What about this? This also gets me to around 14th June. This gets me to around 13th June. This is dangerous because it is again going out. And this is again getting me on 14th June, and so on. So you see, if I can do a projection, I can see on which day I am really going bad. Again, the situation has improved on this day, and we probably can do it in between 15 and 16 June. And ultimately, here we had we would be doing it on between 18 and 19 June, right? But we slowed down, and we finished the job on 19, and we did nothing on 20th. This is abnormal, because if we had completed all the work and we did nothing on one day, that is a wastage of time. We should have picked a new story. But anyways, this is just to predict how the candle burns down and how can we, deduce from it. Okay, moving on. Let us have the next. This is a burn up chart, and this is showing the whole release, and these are the iterations. What was our progress of first iteration? We reached at this point, second iteration, third iteration, and so on. We move on like that. So you see, this is a cumulative graph on the pattern of S curve, but not exactly S curve. We call it burn up chart because our accomplishment keeps adding, and ultimately by the end of the release, we probably would have met the target of that release. But there is a purple line above there that shows the total in product backlog. When we started the first iteration, the product backlog was 100 and we were at 0 point. That means there were 100 points to achieve. On iteration 2, we completed around 10, so there are about 90 left. But the product backlog remains the same until this point. That means there was no addition to the product backlog till this point. But when we reached this point, 20 new story points were added, right? So we are working hard to achieve that target. We should have. Let me draw a line here. Basically, this is generally the pattern we could have achieved, right? You see, the total product backlog. But you see, because initially when we were at that point, when we were at that point for this much time, our backlog should show that it should reach here. But from this point onwards, it increased to this level, and it should be like that. But anyways, our progress is going all right. But on the 8th iteration, we understand that there is around 25 story points which are still left, right? So probably that means that projects that we probably will not be able to meet the target of the release, and we might have to renegotiate with the customer as if at least one or two more iteration could be added to this release, meaning the size of the release will have to be tailored. I hope you understand what I'm saying.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Next is a task board. We have already talked about it. There are 3 columns: to do column, things which are waiting to be done; work in progress, things which are being done; and done, which have been done. So slowly and steadily, all the items from to-do list will end up in the done column, and that is the time when the iteration should have closed, right? In case iteration does have more time left, then we can go back to the product backlog, pick up 1 or 2 more user stories, and keep doing them until the time for the iteration is over. This is the velocity chart. It shows that in first iteration, we did these many stories. In second iteration, we did these many stories, and so on. But because first few iterations are not really very representative of the average, so around 6 iterations are required to draw this velocity, team velocity line. That is an average of these things. And ultimately, we would know in future that, okay, our capacity is this much, but we are falling behind. We are falling behind. Probably this is the iteration going on. So when it will complete, we would know that we have reached our team velocity point or exceeded, right? So this is a very good way of ascertaining the team velocity, taking average of our multiple iterations average. So this draws like a straight dotted line. Got that?
Yeah.
Okay, now the interesting part is cumulative flow diagram. Actually, the only thing I should correct is that this cyan color is not there on the chart. It should be, this color should be cyan, but they have actually used the light purple color here in place of cyan. Anyways, the upper line shows the total work, the product backlog. This line, the middle line, this represents the work which has started. And this third line represents the work which has finished. Right. Okay. So here I'll introduce you to the terms. This is the lead time. What is lead time? This is the time from the inception of our requirement till it is done. From the inception of the requirement till it is done. Cycle time is from the start of a requirement, our user story, till it is done. Right? That means this is in addition to this much time. This time is a waiting time because the item is, when it was conceived, it kept waiting for this much time until it was the turn of that user story to be started, and when it got started, it finished at this point. So cycle time is from here to here. Like for this requirement, it could be, this is the cycle time. For this requirement, it could be this cycle time. For this requirement, it could be this. On the other hand, let me use a different color. the lead time is like right from inception till here. So what is the lead time for this? This is like this much. What is the lead time from here? This much. But you see, so far we have reached at this point, right? But remaining work is yet to be done. That means this is what we have done already. This is what we are working on right now. And this is still untouched and waiting in backlog. You see, the product backlog was very low in the beginning. That is the total requirement given by us, by the customer. And the requirements are being added. So that graph keeps rising up and up and up. By this time, we have our backlog raised to this level. Our work started raised to this level. That means at this time, this much is the job which is yet to be done. This is the job which is being done, but not completed. And this is the job which has been completed. Right? So that means this distance is work in progress. This distance is backlog. And this distance is what? This is done. Done, work in progress, and this is my remaining work, remaining in backlog. Do I need to explain anything? Lead time, cycle time, clear?
Clear.
Work in progress, backlog, and done, clear?
Yes, clear.
So this is how a cumulative flow diagram is created. But you see, I am not going to be going into further detail, but there are very interesting analysis we can extract out of it. Like, like we have got a very long lead time here. How can we reduce the lead time? No, I don't go into those calculations right now, but we can focus that this area, we should try somehow to reduce the lead time, or for that matter, reduce the cycle time, right? Or we can even, like in Kanban or Lean, what we say is we restrict or limit the work in progress. That is because we don't want to chew more than, we don't want to put in our mouth more than what we can chew. So we will restrict that at no time we will have more than this much. So basically, if I can keep this work in progress to a constant height, for example, I say only 3 tasks should be done. So my WIP at any point should be like this. Only three units. 3 units. Right? But right now, this is not following that principle. So if I limit my WIP, the distance between this, the work in progress will be limited. Like a new line will emerge. That will exercise better control over the thing. Why we have got so big lead time and cycle time? Because sometimes we have more work in our work in progress, and sometimes we have less work in our work in progress. When there is more work, our progress reduces. Anyways, this is a long discussion, but here are the definitions. I have defined work in progress, lead time, cycle time. What is throughput? Throughput is number of items entering or exiting the system. How many items have been introduced? How many have been delivered? The difference between that is called the throughput. What is the throughput of the system? Got it? So I can calculate the throughput at any point in the life of the project, agile project. Okay, what next? Then we have got budget challenges, new change project requirements in naturally, we have that in predictive. New risks are changes to the probabilities or impact, are changes to cost estimate. So we have to correct our budget. I mean, the S curve needs to be revised. You remember the S curve in the cost baseline? That needs to be revised and baselines cannot be changed until change request is approved. So only in predictive projects, we require a cost baseline updated only after an approved change request. We have already studied the earned value management system. I'll just show you how does it look like. This orange line is our planned value line. The highest point is a BAC. And then this yellow line is my earned value line, which would be till today we are standing here. So it cannot be drawn beyond that because right now we are here. These two, the purple line and the yellow line, this is actual cost and this is earned value, can only be drawn as we are going on. So that means so far 8 months have passed. Total duration of the project is 12 months, right? So on 8th month, our actual cost is this much. Our earned value is this much, but our planned value was this much. Meaning we were supposed to have done this much work by this time, but we have actually done only this much. That means we are behind schedule by this much, right? And if I compare how much I am spending as compared to what I have actually done, that is my schedule, my cost variance. So this is my schedule variance, and this is my cost. Right?
Question.
Yes, please.
So this is a situation. So for example, the performance or the earned value is behind the planned value. However, the project has a buffer, let's say 3 months buffer. So instead of 12 months, it should be 15 months. So I already know that the performance or the progress of the project is behind target. Should I put the project on track still, or should I put the project at risk, considering that I have the 3 months?
This is, you see, in this diagram, these figures right now, we are behind schedule and we are behind cost. We are overspending and we are behind schedule. We are doing less job and we are paying more money.
Mm-hmm. So in short, this one,
for example, if my next point, let me draw my next point. Let's say the next point is like here, and this next point is here. I know you can't see it. It is in yellow. Can you see it?
yes.
Okay. So that means now the difference between here and here, this is my schedule variance. And that is positive because I'm ahead of schedule. And the difference between this point and this point is my
Cost variance.
cost variance. Now you see, in schedule I'm ahead, but I have spent only this much money. So I have accomplished more than what was supposed to be done, but I am spending too less money, right? So this is an example of that.
Yeah, but my situation is, at least in the example, can you try to complete, let's say you're already in 12, right? And in terms of earned value and actual cost, you are still behind,
Mhm.
but you have 3 months buffer. So that's what I was saying earlier. So what is the right project status?
Okay. Let me first put a line from here. Okay. Actually, I have done that. What you are saying, we are constantly falling behind. If I can achieve these points in the next iteration, everything is corrected. Everything is corrected, right? Just 3, 4 months, if I can keep this like this, like, my points are just like moving from here to here, here, and maybe here. And this point moves like here, here, and here. Everything is all right with me because this line will go from here, and till this point, and the other line will go from here to here, here to here, and here to here. So what is happening? I was supposed to spend this much total BAC, and I have somehow managed to spend exactly that much, right? But at the same time, let me pose a bad picture to you. Let's say this line would not have gone up, this would have gone like this, and this line would not have gone up, this would have gone like this. We would never have achieved our target. You see, in that case, my points are here, 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 and here, 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 here. So if I keep on moving on this path, then probably I will not be able to do this project in 24 months also. What to talk about 4 more months? We would not be able to complete it in 24 months or even more, right? But if I can correct my path, I can start moving upward. I apply certain corrections in my way of working and all. I adopt these paths, then I am going to be much more successful. I'm going to have eradicated the problem. The problem which was caused in the first 8 months, here it shows that this has been resolved during
Yeah.
this.
So, sorry, I'm
This is
still,
the resolution, and this is the bad picture.
I still want to connect my situation to what you said.
Yes?
So,
Mhm.
can you put the orange line in the planned value? So a horizontal line from the last dot.
This one?
No, the last. Yes, yes, but the last one, the up there,
Yeah, this
there.
one, yeah.
Yes. Can you put a horizontal line to the right? A horizontal line.
Like this. This one?
No. So
Parallel line.
like a line.
Yes.
So line. Meaning I want an extension of the planned value to the right. If you can, let me
Like if
just.
you are moving like this,
Yes, so meaning you extend it to the right, the planned
Right.
value.
Okay. Okay, let's see. If I extend a line, let me use a different color.
No, only the planned value. Yeah, but go ahead.
From which point? 5?
Uh, the planned value in 12.
Okay. This is the planned value. So what do I
Yes,
do?
there. So you extend it to the right, the
If I
last
extend
dot.
this,
Yes. No,
there
not
is no need to
upwards.
extend that
Yeah, yeah. So listen to
because
me
this is
first.
the end point.
So
This is
yes.
the end point. We should finish at this point. If I extend that, then I will be taking more time. This is not applicable here because you see, because
Sorry. So
the S curve cannot be amended. S curve is standard. But these things are showing that because we are not reaching this height, right? If I'm moving on this path, I have to go a long way towards that direction as if I
so
can reach to the height of this level.
okay. So Suhail, how would you tell me? How would you illustrate the planned value if you have a
I
buffer?
mean, you want to ask how much more time it will take to finish.
No. So because I understand the planned value concept, right? That you
Planned
cannot
value will not change. Planned value can only change if there is a change request in the plan. Otherwise, planned value is not going to change. This orange line is going to stay as it is. The only
okay.
two lines you can manipulate are the blue and yellow lines, which is earned value and actual cost. Actually, during your progress, you are drawing these two lines. This already existed. The orange line already existed. This is the baseline. You can't change it. You can't stretch it. You can't, elongate it. Nothing until there is a change request. Got my point or
Okay.
not?
So sorry. Said differently. So since you are saying that planned value, I cannot change it, so that's fine. But what I was referring to is that I have a buffer in my
There is
project. So
no buffer. What do you mean by buffer?
no, so I'm talking about a specific project. I'm trying to relate this earned value management in a project wherein
Hold on,
it's
hold
normal.
on. First, explain to me what do you mean by buffer?
So I'm thinking, for example, I have a project, then I
Uh,
should have completed or I should have reached the earned value at an earlier time. So in this example, maybe I should have completed it on my 10th month because I plotted my whole timeline to reach the planned value. I mean, using these terms in
yeah,
10 months.
you have to somehow divert all the lines upwards to align with the planned value point. Planned value point cannot change. Planned value line cannot change, right? And the misconception you have is about the buffer. Buffer is what is buffer? You are not explaining it. I think
So,
you are referring to float.
to what?
Are you referring to float?
No, so I'm referring that when I talk about buffer, I'm referring about some extra time that I have
You don't
for
have
me.
any extra time. Who told you you have an extra time? You have this time, 12 months. There is no buffer at all.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying
There,
in the
there are
earned
in some
value.
activities there is float. Float is not buffer. Buffer is a completely different concept. Buffer means, okay, if you have 12 months, you want to keep a buffer. Where will it show? Let me let me draw it like this. For example, this is your project. of 12 months, where is the buffer? Is it going to be
In the end.
ahead of it or behind it?
So
You
it
think
should,
that this is your buffer,
mm,
or do
no,
you
it should be
think,
inside. There, you draw the square there.
or you think uh, uh, this is your buffer? Which is your buffer?
The second one, the one that you draw the
Yellow
last.
one,
Yellow.
yellow one. That means if there is a buffer that is within this time, 12 months. So maybe
Correct.
I have a buffer of 1 month. So that buffer is included in this orange line. In this
Yes,
planned value, buffer is included there. There is no extra buffer.
I
This
agree.
thing, this thing is, buffers cannot be like that. Buffers can be within, right?
So now, since
Hmm.
now I think we're talking about the same concept of buffer. So
Hmm.
let's say you tried to extend your actual cost and earned value earlier, or maybe let's talk about earned value. Let's
Hmm.
remove the actual cost topic for now, at least on this on that buffer conversation. So in the extension where you mentioned that you are already having an earned value above or beyond the planned value on your ninth month there, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So it means that on your 10th month to 12 months, that's already your project buffer. Considering that the 10th
No,
month, it's already
actually, you
equal.
are completely confusing the concept of buffer. I have not discussed the concept of buffer. That is called critical chain method, right? I can't explain it on this chart because this chart does not represent buffer here. Buffer is a imaginary margin you are keeping out of your project. For example, your project was 12 months long. You request your team members to reduce their duration of activities as if they can give me 1 month's buffer. So every activity reduces its size and gives this buffer to the project manager. That means the project timeline doesn't change. Project timeline remains 12 months, but the timing allocated to each activity is reduced, right? The expectation is reduced. The person who said that I need 5 days to do this job, I have reduced it to 4 days. So that means we may end up completing the project 1 month earlier. And in case of any unforeseen, we will have 1 month to, out of the buffer to consume. Still, we will not be late, right? Actually, it is not included in the course. That's why I'm not discussing the critical chain. But if you want, I can discuss it at some later time. But I suppose you should go and look at some online resources, search for project buffer, and you will get a lot of material on that. But please do not confuse it here. Your planned value doesn't show any buffer at all. It doesn't show any buffer. Just for your clarification, I created this here. Otherwise, uh, planned value has built-in buffer. Got it?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we are done with the time, but let me just show you. These were the slides we have already seen. Schedule variance, schedule performance index. Remember that? We have discussed these formulas. Cost variance, cost performance index. We have discussed this as well. EAC, that is BAC. BAC was the highest point on the S curve, divided by your CPI. This will give you estimate at completion. This is the projection, like the projection line I have made. He has done this calculation. It says if we are going slow, that means we will not be able to end the project on the same point. It is not going to end on 12 month. Maybe it will then end on 13th or 14th month. So our EAC will represent that point. Similarly, ETC is so far what I have spent is spent. That is the actual cost. What is the remaining money I require to complete the project? That is called ETC. And the formula is the EAC minus actual cost, right? EAC minus actual cost. And if you like, you can replace the value of EAC by this. You can write here BAC divided by CPI. Okay, so this is the earned value management. We can do that in story points also. In Agile, there is earned value management, but it is not based on cost or time. Because you remember, I told you in Agile, we don't calculate based on time and cost. We base it on effort. So, in a way, I would say I would be calculating it based on effort. How much effort was planned? How much effort has been utilized? So, we will completely not discuss about the time or the cost. Time and cost have been compressed into the effort. And effort is what I am going to do it on. Earned value will be applied to that. But anyways, that is not the subject. I don't want to go into that detail because that is also not covered here. I suppose we can stop here for today. Is it all right?
Yeah.
Yep.
In case you still want to talk more about those things, probably on the last day when we finish the course, I can give you some time to talk about the critical chain method, the buffers, and how the earned value is calculated in Agile. There are not many things we have not included in the course, but they are the advanced concepts. So this is slide number 59, and we will continue tomorrow from this slide onwards, right? I'm sorry for having taken more 10 minutes extra of your time, but probably next time we will make up for it. I suppose we will require tomorrow and maybe day after also. I was planning we can finish tomorrow, but it seems like I am left with about 60 slides here and 40 slides there. So it will take 2 days.
Okay.
Okay, if everything okay, we can call it a day. Thank you for your company. And I'm sorry if I couldn't answer some of your questions due to time. Take care and bye-bye.
Thanks, Suhail. Bye.
Thank you.